Hi, this is Ben Baxter with Accent Software. Today we're going to look at how Business Central handles inventory picks versus warehouse picks, what the differences are, and when someone should use them. I've set up a little bit of a sample. I have two sales orders in two different warehouses. And so what we're going to do is we're going to compare what the setup looks like on the front end before the picks are created, and then what happens when we process those picks. So here are my two sales orders in the list. You'll notice one is in an advanced location, that's just what I've called it, and the other is in a basic location. In my basic location, we have a sales order, and then we have an inventory pick. And that means that when we process this sales order, we need to create an inventory pick, something that tells the warehouse to go and grab the items on the sales order and to pick them off of the warehouse shelves and ship them for this order. So in this case, I don't have my bin codes listed, but you'll see where they fall in once I've selected them on the pick, because I do have all four of these items in inventory in my basic location. Something that's important for both the inventory pick and the warehouse pick is that the sales document needs to be released. Okay, so in this case, this is a sales order, and the order is released. Now you'll also notice I have a quantity to ship filled in. Now if I tried to post this order and mark it as shipped, the system would stop me and say that because my basic warehouse requires a pick, I would not be able to process this order. So what I need to do instead is to create that pick. So I have a button underneath process called Create Inventory Pick and Put Away. Okay, so in this case it's a sales document, so I'm picking it out of inventory, and so that is what we're going to be creating. So you can see I have Create Inventory Pick checked. It auto fills in the sales document for me, so all I have to do is say OK. What this does is creates my pick, which is now sitting in my inventory. Okay, I do have the ability to access that directly from the sales order and see what those pick lines are. In this case, I just have the one pick, and I can actually open that up. Now, inside of Business Central is where I can process the pick from. So if I have a picking workstation out in the warehouse, a picker can come by, see that there is a new inventory pick in their queue, and then they can go and process that pick. So they can go and grab the items, come back up to the workstation, and then fill in the quantity that was handled. You do have the ability to underpick. So if I don't have all of the items available, then I could go ahead and enter a short quantity, and then it would only pick and handle those quantities. Okay, now it does have my bin codes listed here because I have these items in my inventory in specific bins. Bins are not required. You do not have to use bins to use inventory picks. We do recommend using bins because it gives you better visibility into what quantities are in what specific locations within your warehouse. It also gives you the ability to have an item stored in multiple bins and knowing where to go to get what quantity to fulfill particular orders. So in this case, we're not going to do anything fancy. I will show you something more advanced when we get to the advanced warehouse. But for this one, I can either fill in my quantity here. There is a function to autofill. I do have a setting that says leave this blank. And the reason for that is because I use handheld scanners. So if you use handheld scanners, you're going to want this to be blank. We do have recommended solutions. Feel free to reach out to me and I can give you more information about what that is. So once I have my quantity to handle filled in, the last step is to post this order. So I'm going to go ahead and use a posting date using the work date. And we'll come up to posting and we'll do post. What's important to note here is that this is physically shipping the sales order lines. So if I'm using a shipping integration partner that carries out carrier interfaces to UPS or FedEx or anything like that, I do not want to use an inventory pick. The inventory pick will ship that sales order and I will have nothing left to send to that carrier. So that's a really important distinction as you look at different ISV solutions or apps that are on the Microsoft App Source. Okay, so we'll go ahead and ship this order. And what we'll do when this completes is we'll come back and take a look at that sales order. The only big difference you'll notice is that the quantity to ship and quantity shipped has moved from the obviously pre-posted to post-shipped process. Again, if I'm using a shipping interface to the carriers, I do not have the ability to send them any information. According to Business Central, that product has been shipped and sent out the door. So you do want to be careful which picking process you use based on what you need to do in the system. Now we're going to go to the advanced sales order, and this one is using warehouse picks. The name is different, so inventory pick versus warehouse pick. The process is slightly different in terms of how it got there. Okay, so again, different location. So this one requires both the warehouse shipment and a warehouse pick. You'll notice my quantity to ship value is not filled in. Okay, this particular sales order would stop me if I tried to enter any information in my quantity to ship fields. Okay, so that has to be blank. And then I have to run a process that is to create the warehouse shipment. Now in this case, I've already done that. So again, I have some of this pre-set up. So we'll go and take a look at that warehouse shipment document. Again, the warehouse shipment, kind of an intermediate piece used specifically for the shipping process, which we're not going to get too much into today, but it is used to facilitate that shipment after picking. Okay, with an inventory pick, when you mark it as picked, it automatically ships it. The warehouse shipment keeps a separation of duty. So I can do my pick, come back, and then later do my shipment. Or do them sequentially, but give a separation of duty, allow for a product that can interface to the different carrier interfaces. Okay, so that's what we'll look at with this. Okay, so again, quantity to picked, 0. I do not have my pick line, so I haven't created any pick lines for this order yet. Now, where I was on my sales order and I created the inventory pick, I do have the same capability here. I can come in and say create pick, and it will create a pick for this particular warehouse shipment. Now, because it is in released status, I have a better option. Okay, so if I come all the way back to my main screen, we have this option up here called Worksheet. And if you're not familiar with the Pick Worksheet, I think it's a great tool. So I'm going to go into my Advanced Warehouse Worksheet, and I'm going to go ahead and do a process that says Get Warehouse Documents. So what this does is it goes out to anything in my system that would require a pick document. Okay, so in that case, I have shipments. I also do a lot of manufacturing work with clients. So there's several production orders that would require picks as well. So the latest warehouse shipment, this high number 25, is the one that I'm working on. Normally when you use this, you would just highlight a group of them and say, okay, I don't want to do that today, so I'm not really fully utilizing what the pick worksheet can do for me. But what we're going to do is we're going to just process that single warehouse shipment. So it pulls in the lines. And what's nice about the pick worksheet is I can see what is the available quantity to pick, and then what is the recommended pick quantity for these lines. So again, if I'm using this in the most efficient way possible, I'm going to run it for multiple, if not all, of my warehouse shipments. And what that will do is tell me, here's all of the product that you need to pick based on the warehouse shipments that you have in place today. Now, if there were lines here that didn't have enough quantity, so if my available quantity to pick was 0, then this quantity to handle would also be 0. and that prevents the system from making the pick with that line. So if I wanted to, I could say 0 for this line, and it would create a pick for just the other 3 lines. Now I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let it go for all 4 lines. But the process is very similar. I say create pick. Now again, if I'm using the pick worksheet correctly, I may have 100 lines in here, okay? And I can have my picks created per warehouse document. So that'd be a one-to-one relationship. And if that's the case, then maybe I should just be making my picks from the warehouse shipment. Now, if I'm really using this efficiently, I may do it by zone. I may do it by the due date. I may leave these all unchecked and just say, I want to do it for 4 source documents, okay? And that means that if there's 4 warehouse shipments, go ahead and combine those, and then I'm going to grab the items for those particular orders, okay? Now in this case, I don't need to do anything. We're only processing 1 warehouse shipment, so I'm going to just say okay, and it creates my warehouse pick. Now here's where things get slightly different, okay? So if I come back to my main worksheet and I go and look at my list of picks, we're going to see number 32, that's the one that they just created for us, and it's going to have 8 lines instead of 4 lines, okay? So in an inventory pick, you notice that there were just 4 lines for the 4 items being picked. Here in a warehouse pick, there are 8 lines. Each line is for a take and a place. So in this case, I need to take the item 3010 from bin 1A1, and I need to place it in my shipment bin. So that is where I have a shipment staging area, and I am going to move the items there so that they're ready to be packed and shipped at a later process. So again, separation of duty, it allows me to break down the picking process separate from the shipping process so that you can have 2 different people. One's all day grabbing carts of items, moving it over to the shipping station, and then the shipper is then packaging those items up and then getting them usually sent out to a carrier interface that says, okay, UPS is the cheapest way to send this today. Go ahead and box it up, and here's your carrier label for that. We're not going to get into that today. Maybe I'll make a separate video for just the shipping process. But I want to show you one more advanced tool for this. Okay, so we have this pick created. Okay, I want to show you what this looks like on a handheld. So what I'm going to do is pull up just a screen mirror of what I have in my hand, which is a handheld barcode scanner. Okay, now I have several different things that I can do on this scanner. In this case, we're handling the pick, so I'm going to go to a pick, and our pick number is 32. So I'm going to go ahead and open up pick 32, and now you can see that it says picking take. Okay, so again, I said there's 8 lines. 4 of them are take lines from 1A, 1A, 1A2, 1B2. Those are the different bins that are showing, and it's sequential, right? So it typically is sorted by your shelf or bin so that you can snake through your warehouse and pick items as you go, okay? And then I have a place window, which you can't actually see, nor do you have to do anything with it because the system knows where it's going to go, which is the shipment staging area, okay? So just to step through this, I'm going to open up my little cheat sheet of barcodes over here, and I'm going to show you what this would look like if somebody were to scan the information. Okay, so first thing they're going to do is scan a bin. So I'm going to scan a bin, and then I'm going to scan the item. The system's going to say, does that item exist from that bin on this pick? In this case, it does. And it knows that I need 20, so I'm going to say OK. And you can see I wasn't on this line to begin with, but because I scanned that bin with that item, it said, yep, you're good to go. Now there are cases where maybe I need to pick from a different bin. So I went to this bin and it didn't have all those. Okay, now that's a different story. You need to find out why that's occurring. because your system and your physical inventory should be 100% the same. And if there's differences, that's a different discussion. Okay, so we're going to have to work through that separately. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go to a different bin. Okay, so now I'm going to move around my warehouse, go to a different bin, scan the item that I need to get out of that bin. Again, it verifies the bin and the item. Once it says that's okay, then I keep moving on. And I go to my next bin, scan it, say here's where I am now, scan the item that I'm picking for that bin. This time it shows me a picture, so that's a nice thing to do, not required, but just something to help people physically verify they are picking what they see. And again, scan my last item. Now you can see all my open quantities go to 0. And if I just show you what happened back here in Business Central, it's auto-filled in these fields for me. Okay, so that's how real-time this is. As I scan it on the handheld, it is literally filling in the details inside of Business Central for me. So my picker no longer has to have a Business Central full user license to process the pick. They're doing it from a handheld and a device license. Okay, so a nice way to get some big benefit and to lower your licensing cost through software. Okay, so I can either have this auto post on close, or I'll just go ahead and post it. And what that'll do is close out that pick. So back inside of Business Central, if we go ahead and back out of it, and we come back to this, let this finish out. There we go. So that pick is no longer in my system. So again, if I come back to my picks, that pick is no longer inside of Business Central. It's been fully picked. Okay. Now, what did that do is on my warehouse shipment. So if we come here, which has been completely picked, you do see that it has a status of completely picked. I have picked all 20, and it's now ready to ship those items. Okay, 20, 15, 10, and 5. This is where I would get into a shipping interface. I may save that for a different video, but that is the biggest differences between an inventory pick and a warehouse pick is the separation of duty. So a warehouse pick stages it for shipping. An inventory pick ships it automatically. Okay, so there can be a benefit to that. If I'm doing my own shipping and my pick process loads it up in a truck and I'm doing my own deliveries, great. I don't need the warehouse shipment to process that. If I want that visibility, I could use warehouse shipments, and the warehouse shipment is my truck documentation, and I do multiple picks to it, and then out the door it goes. So different ways to handle it, just depends on what you're needing it to do. But in this case, the warehouse shipment completed the pick for my warehouse shipment, and it is now ready to be processed through the carrier interface shipping. Okay, so different flavors, different reasons to use each. If you have additional questions on purposes for them, which one's right for you, the biggest takeaway that I can give anybody is if I'm using an inventory pick, it means that it ships at the same time. So if I'm using a warehouse pick, I do get that extra layer to be able to use carrier interfaces and things like that. Okay, so I hope this was good. I hope this was informational and helpful to you in making your decisions and better utilizing Business Central. If you're unfamiliar with Business Central and you want more information on it, how to use it, how to better utilize what you already have, feel free to reach out to me. I'll throw my information up at the end of this video. Please like and subscribe our videos. That really helps us get the content out there, make more people aware of what the system can do and potentially what we can do to help you with the system. So thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.